Hi, everybody. Welcome to Begin Within. We have a very special guest on today, and I'm so happy to have Maggie Cubbler. She is a friend. We lived together in Wiesbaden, Germany for a little while. She's a professional beer sommelier, amateur philosopher, and believer in the power of fun. She's got so much great experience to talk about today, and I won't spoil her own story. So Maggie, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into the interview.
Sure thing. Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Good to see you. My name is Maggie Cubbler, as she says. I am the founder and creator of Unfiltered Journeys. Unfilteredjourneys.com started out as a travel business, but has now evolved into a podcast where I combine some of my two of my favorite loves, which is beer and philosophy. I'm not overcomplicating it. I just like both of the things because I am a defender of fun. And I feel it's really important that in the world today that we look at fun as a viable opportunity for career choices. And there's nothing wrong with having fun. And so in my podcast, I discuss self-help concepts, sociology, philosophy, culture, and of course, beer. And it's all because I feel like we should be having more fun. So my podcast comes out every other Tuesday, or every other Thursday. I don't even know what I'm saying.
And we will drop a link to it in the chat so that way you can find it. Maggie, I want to start off our interview by talking about your journey. You have a really interesting background. You're a military veteran. Whoa. And to think that you're a beer sommelier that does a podcast now, it's so trendy. I personally understand transformation. My own business, Begin Within, started out as a hobby blog, and the logo was a pink butterfly with gray writing back in the day, and now look what it has become. So I'm so curious to hear the inspiration, the story behind the woman, all of those things that have brought you to being Maggie the podcaster and the beer sommelier expert that you are. So let's hear that story.
Okay, so in the pre-interview here, you were telling me you wanted to keep this to 45 minutes. So I will try to give the abridged version of how I ended up here. As you mentioned, I am a Navy veteran. I did 6 years in the Navy. I also have 3 degrees, and I have a field of failures of businesses that I started and ended. And so I believe that this transformation where I am now, I'm going to be 40 in a couple of months now. So I don't know if I hit that wall, if I'm turning 40, I'm freaking the F out. I don't know what it is, but I realized that I've been unhappy, and especially in my professional life. And I've been doing some soul searching, mostly because I ended up in therapy, trying to figure out why I couldn't get the professional achieve the professional goals and achieve the professional aspirations that I always wanted. I took an inventory of my life and I said, look, I'm educated. I have 3 degrees. I speak 2 foreign languages. I was in the military. I am gutsy, apparently, because I'll just keep starting businesses. But the fact of the matter is they were all leading to dead ends. And it took me some time to do a personal inventory as to why. And maybe we might get into this a bit later in the interview, but I know I am where I am now. And the reason why, and this is still an evolution for me too. This is a point that I want to make clear because I'm jumping off a cliff by doing this. Unfiltered Journeys is a travel business as of last December. On a whim, I decided to close it down because it just wasn't working. And after that point, I decided to look and go, why once again have I closed down a business that I jumped feet first into, poured everything I had, money, time, resources, pieces of paper that I gained. Why did I close it down again? And so I was really honest with myself. Ultimately, I felt the Unfiltered Journeys name still spoke to me. It's still relative to what's really important to me. But I was off base when I started the company, and we'll discuss that in a bit as to why it evolved into what it is now. But it took these failures and these dead ends for me to get it to this point. So I'm speaking here on your show today because I want to give a voice to a certain concept that, and I know we'll probably get into this in a bit. I want to give a voice to a certain concept that was probably the number one reason why I have failed so many times in my life before. But first of all, before I get started, I want to let everybody know that I'm an absolute nobody. I don't have pieces of paper behind me. In fact, I have like posters that say cheers and beer garden behind me. That's what I've got. I'm a nobody. I'm not coming from a position of you should listen to me because I have pieces of paper. What I'm coming to you with is my own knowledge and my own experience and my own belief in the world. And so I'm also trying to encourage some people who may be afraid to venture into certain career fields or maybe even entrepreneurship because they feel like they need degrees or pieces of paper. I'm just sitting here spitting it right now, knowing what I know, knowing I know what I'm talking about. And so I'm hoping by being a bit vulnerable, sharing my story, connecting to people, that it will give people the courage to make the change that they need, that they're feeling with inside of them because something doesn't feel quite right. And maybe they won't have a trail of tears behind them. It'll be a trail of dreams in front of them.
Well, you're so articulate, Maggie.
You like that?
You should write songs. But that'd be another failed business.
Oh God, don't put another idea in my head.
I have, in my own life, you resonate with me so much as an individual. I remember just when I first met you, we were going to this goofy little entrepreneur group in Germany, and you were talking about, okay, I need to figure out who's my target market and all these things about beer. And I was like, me, pick me. I am your target art. Like me and my husband, we love craft beer. Talk to us. We're it. But more importantly, as you're spitting your philosophy right now, there's so many things that not only me, but people who come from a military background, we come from a very specific, regimented, rigid environment. Military members have this high stress, high volume of work hours position that they're coming from. And then when we're talking about a military veteran and even a military spouse who deals with high stress, child rearing, and being a single parent a lot of the time with their spouse, the stuff that you're saying is really going to like hit the nail on the head for a certain percentage of them. Some of them want to leave the high stress and go to high stress and maintain that. But some of them, we were talking about this before, want to do that 180 and experience a different part of life. And so what we're talking about is so relevant for career choices and for not having the trail of tears and for having the trail of dreams, because you've been through it and you can talk about the bad stuff that you went through so that maybe it does convince somebody you don't have to. If you're a creative soul, you don't have to go from high stress to high stress. You can do something different. You can have fun and you can do it successfully, right? So let's talk about the military community. Let's talk about the stuff you regret doing. I know we're going to have the Maggie expose today, but let's talk about the things that you would really want those military community members to avoid when they are transitioning to a new career.
So for me, what I felt was probably the biggest inhibitor for me long-term was that I believe that everything belonged in a system, and that system was a framework that was built on other people's expectations. Now, don't get me wrong, military work is very serious work. I was a linguist. It wasn't a barrel of laughs every day. So within that system, there's a finite way of thinking, and there's very little left to the individual, and there's almost nothing left to creativity. Growth and advancement come from meeting expectations that were set externally on pieces of paper, your evals, all that kind of stuff. And so you end up in this really kind of system that is defined by policy, defined by others, and just, well, as we know, rigid. And so I feel creatives who end up in the military system, and especially creative women like me, who I survive in a system where everybody's telling me what to do. I don't want to disappoint people. I'm a hard worker. I'm clever. I'm smart. I can do what you tell me to do, and I can survive and do very good in those scenarios, but I don't ever thrive. I don't ever feel like I personally grow. I'm personally meeting any goals or objectives or doing anything that, it meets my driving force in the world. Well, it's very good work. And, I believe that all of us who were in the military or are currently in the military, I believe that we believe in the nobility of our cause. And I'm not questioning that. But the fact of the matter is that becomes this existential cause for everybody else. And it almost removes the ability of seeing yourself as an individual, and that your individual goals and your individual wants are worthy as well, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
I hope I answered your question.
So I think, just to kind of recap on that, you're avoiding your own mental jail. Like, you put yourself in this mental prison that you have to work in that system, but you don't. There's another whole option out there. And so I was talking about how for example, the entertainment industry is a booming industry. Entertainment is the U.S.'s #1 export, and it's a very lucrative career in some cases for folks. Mm-hmm. And it's built around fun. And so I don't know why it is, especially in the military community, that we have a culture of shame surrounding having fun. It's almost like there's this thing you have to tiptoe around it because having fun is equitable to getting in trouble or something like that. And so let's talk about the stigma of fun. What are your perspectives on that?
So I believe my perspectives on the stigma of fun, I believe, come from a number of places. Number one, Western culture, Western society. I can't really speak too much to Eastern cultures because I was socialized in a Western culture, and especially in the U.S., I believe that we view misery as a noble aspiration, that work is to be endured in order to earn the right to have fun. I believe that our society has socialized us to believe that if you are miserable at work, you are doing honest work, fun work, work you enjoy, work that's pleasurable, work that is, maybe not necessarily building skyscrapers or saving lives. That's trivial work. And that's, oh, isn't that cute? This is what you're doing. Oh, you're an entertainer. Oh, you drink beer for a living. It doesn't pay anything, by the way. I believe that that's where that stigma comes from. Now, in the military communities, I feel as though these traditional kind of mindsets, these traditional socializations that we've grown up with, I believe that that's an even more condensed version of the same. Because not only does it have to be that way, because you have to strip the individuality away, but historically, it has just been a very conservative, traditional perspective that has to be condensed into a really concentrated form of misery, I guess.
In the framework of our socialization is in the U.S., right? We work 5 days, 40 hours a week, so we can have 2 days off, right? And that's just, we're starting from school age. We go to school 5 days a week so we can have a 2-day long weekend. And it's like, you're right, there's this sort of, it's like a clockwork system in our bodies that say you have to work this much to have that much fun.
Right.
And it goes against everything. I've seen people having some incendiary conversations just about reducing school and work to a 4-day week, right? To have a 3-day weekend. And other cultures do this. Other cultures get like 8 weeks of vacation every year and 3 years of paid maternity leave. Like, I don't know what we're doing in the United States sometimes. But it's built, the way that it is built, it encourages you to do nothing but work all day long so you can have 2 days off to have fun on the weekend, which maybe is why we get in trouble. So let's talk about when it comes to building a career, right? We need to generate an income in order to survive, right? And how is it that you translate, something like having fun, because it's really broad and generic, right? Having fun. How is it that you can have a career and can have fun at the same time?
Well, I think that's a really important question because I really want to, first of all, I believe that I need to express what I mean by fun. And I think a lot of times that people think fun and, you know, they picture me dancing on a table at Oktoberfest, which I do, by the way. But actually, I mean it much more broadly. I mean fun in terms of pleasure. I mean fun in terms of what suits a person and, you know, deep within them, what makes them happy, what makes them content, what makes them just kind of jive and flow. That's kind of what I mean by fun. I'm simplifying it because it's just easier to say, and I prefer fun. I prefer fun in the traditional way that we understand it. So how I feel, especially say you're in the military, you're transitioning, or you're in any other system of work and you are wanting to find something that's maybe not so intense or serious or I don't know, rigid, whatever it might be, you are wanting to transition. I feel there's a couple important things to think of because we are talking profession here, not hobby. So obviously money is going to come into this. And you have to be very pragmatic about it. I believe that there are 3 things that actually make a career a positive thing for a person. And one of them is passion or, you know, desire, whatever it might be. The second one is viability. Can you actually make any money at it? And the third one is, are you any good at it? Mm-hmm. I would be a terrible ice dancer. So I'm not going to get into the field of ice dancing. You know, I believe that you need to have all 3 of those things in order to make it a viable career. So if we're talking about career transition, it's really easy, especially when you're in a high stress system like the military. It's really easy to go one of 2 ways. You can fold into the system, find that be your comfort zone, stay there, or you might feel, forget this, I'm over it, I'm going to completely 180 and I'm going to go start juggling for a life, you know, for a living. You do you, but here's what I think is important. Do it slowly. Do it systematically, do it smartly, because I'm telling you, I have done this 2 feet straight into the deep end a number of times because I was following an anxiety, which I didn't realize I had. And which is, I think, is really important that people be honest with themselves about, especially when it comes to career transition. Are you feeling this mojo, this feeling, this calling, this, you've done all the work, is there money in it? Are you any good at it? Have you done all that work and you were just ready to take the leap? I think you're ready. Maybe give it a go for a bit to make sure you understand what that new lifestyle might be about. We can talk about that in a minute. But if you're not jazzed, if this is more of a I gotta get away kind of thing, or I gotta do something, I gotta be something, I gotta do something different here, I gotta, you need to listen to that, because that's how you end up in my shoes, where you start 4 businesses and close them all down because you didn't actually listen to the real mojo. You didn't actually listen to what was pushing you forward. You listened to an anxiety that was making you jump ship from where you were.
Excellent points. I love the saying, and I heard it a little bit ago on another chat I was on, don't eat that whole elephant in one bite. So not my original saying. I don't know who that belongs to, but I'm going to totally steal it right now. Don't eat the whole elephant in one bite. And so you've got to be realistic. And this is from my Jaime career wearing hat. You have to earn an income. And so don't eat the whole elephant in one bite. If you're interested in starting a business or starting another career path, maybe do something as your side hustle to begin with, get your feet wet, and then jump in feet first later once you know that it is viable for you. I think that's hugely important. So thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Maggie. Let's talk about motivators. You know, some people, like you said, can survive and are externally motivated when people tell them to do something. They want to please the person who do things. Some people are intrinsically motivated and they do things because they want to do them and they're inspired and motivated to do them on their own accord. And some people are sort of a mixture and a blend of both, which means you can probably survive in a handful of ways in your career, but maybe survive, not thrive, like you were talking about. So let's talk about your perspectives on, you know, maybe you're red flags like, oop, I'm intrinsically motivated and I'm in a system that's bad for me. So now what? Let's discuss that and see what happens.
So for me, motivation, is one of those things. I've come to discover from myself that I'm quite a creative operator, if you will. I don't operate and work efficiently in a system that tells me I need to sit in a chair from 9 to 5. I work better, working in bits and spurts. So motivation for me is something I've chased for a very long time. I just got to be motivated. And I would sit there and I would write out my to-do list and I would write out my schedule for the day. And I was externally motivated. I am externally motivated in a number of ways, mostly because I do not want to disappoint people. There's the people pleaser in me, especially as a woman. I've been socialized to be a people pleaser. So there's this people pleaser in me that's externally motivated. However, that sort of external motivation for me actually creates anxiety or stress or pressure, and makes me do things only because I fear a consequence. Now, I believe that humans, every human, we are hardwired, excuse me, we are hardwired to always want to feel good. And we will do whatever we can to always make sure that whatever we're doing makes us feel good. A lot of times we think what makes us feel good is avoidance or running away from a consequence or doing what somebody tells me to do, otherwise bad things will happen. They think that makes us feel good. But actually, I've found that in order to be intrinsically motivated, which is, I think, the only thing that's really going to have staying power, unless you join the military and are contractually obligated to stay, intrinsic motivation is the only thing that's going to keep things going. So what you need to do, I feel, is to find the source of your motivation. And the source of our motivation is the same for every person. And it's we always want to feel good. How we feel good differs from person to person. Some people feel good when they're like, jazz hands every day and I feel energized and I feel da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Some people feel good when they can stand and like, look at the cause that I'm fighting for and I have a sense of self-pride. Me, I feel good when I'm just chilling and I'm just going with the flow. And I find in those scenarios, that's where I work my most efficient ways possible, get more stuff done, do my best work, my most inspired work. And then that's where, when I take the pressure off myself and I just realize I need to go with the flow, that's where actual inspiration comes from. That's where actual ideas come from. That's where actual clarity about what I really want comes from, because there's no anxiety, there's no pressure, there's nothing external making me go, oh my God, I need to start a travel business in order to make cash. And so that's how I feel about motivation. So this is a process I'm still discovering on my own. But I feel a lot of times every human, we are biologically hardwired to always feel good. So chase what it is that makes you feel good, because that can be your intrinsic motivation to keep you going, because you're always going to want to try to feel good.
Yeah, amen to that. And what is funny is how our society is built the opposite way, is to chase the thing that makes you miserable 4 days or 5 days out of the week. And then you only get to do that thing that makes you feel good 2 days out of the week. I just keep thinking about how our time is structured, like physically, and how our whole society is built around doing exactly the opposite of what you're telling us.
Exactly. I mean, it's a construct that came from, I guess, I don't know, the Industrial Revolution, or whenever they put labor laws into place or something like that. I don't know. My history's not so great on that, but that's a construct where it was, I guess, maybe to prevent people from working 80 hours a week. I guess maybe they looked at this as progress, but really I feel like that just instilled a system of, you must work in order to earn the right to enjoy yourself. That work came first, that this drive to contribute to the greater good came first at the individual's expense.
Yep.
And that's where the nobility was. That's where the nobility in work is. And I believe that we are seeing, probably in a generation younger than me, they'll be 40, I believe that we're seeing in the generations younger than me that there's more of this realization that taking a break, having this kind of overarching sense of enjoyment or finding, working towards creativity and all that kind of stuff. I believe that the younger generation is getting there with that. However, my generations and the generations before me have kind of almost this critical, oh, look at those snowflakes just wanting to play ping pong at work. And I mean, let's be real, they're still getting stuff done. I am not taking away from the importance of the work that was done from the generations before us. But their relationship with work, I believe, is outdated compared to the relationship that we should have with work now. And I find that there is a generation, my generation, where I'm kind of in the cusp. I think they call me a Xennial because I was born in 1980. So I'm not a millennial and I'm not a Generation X. I'm kind of in the middle. And I believe that there's this cusp generation that's kind of pulled in two different directions about what do we do? What's the right thing to do? We have our parents telling us, especially blue collar families, telling you work, get your hourly wage, and then enjoy your time on the weekends. We have the generation after us going, no, man, just chill, in this kind of, let's work hard, get educated, but, not have it be so rigid. This is where creativity comes from. This is where we are pulled in the middle. Women, especially my age, we are pulled in the middle and we don't know what to do with this. And so I feel as though my generation, maybe even Generation X, maybe in some of the older millennials, have this almost shame and guilt towards feeling that it's okay to have fun. And I'm out here to combat that.
It is funny to think of this generational difference because the people that are saying work all day long are the bosses right now, right? And it's like they're instilling this value system into people that don't want the value system, and the clash is causing some chaos right now. But then what's going to happen whenever the millennials and younger grow up and become the boss themselves, there's going to be this weird turnover in work where I think there's still going to be some resistance in more flexible and family-friendly work environments than what we're traditionally used to in the 9-to-5 grind, versus it's going to be clunky for a while, is my prediction, is that a family-friendly and flexible workplace is kind of how I'm looking at this, isn't necessarily going to happen overnight. It might take a decade or two to happen. And so there's kind of a theme with being ashamed of having fun. There's sort of a theme to our conversation here. Do you have any words from your own life and your own story? What would you tell a veteran or a member of the military community about if they do feel a twinge of guilt, if they are considering making a career move that's unconventional? What would you do? How would you tell them to handle that guilt?
Oh gosh, the guilt and the shame. Yes, because I believe for me, and this is something that's also very important to me and I discuss a lot about on my podcast, is guilt and shame and how it inhibits people, and is actually probably one of the, from my perspective, one of the biggest enemies to freedom and independence is judgment, criticism, and assigning guilt and shame to others. And I believe that also extends to if you're doing it to yourself. I would say that the best way to get over this is therapy. And I know not everybody has that opportunity or, can manage that, but I just want to encourage people to realize that actually, I just wrote a podcast, or just recorded the podcast today. It's going to come out tomorrow. And I'm not so sure if this is answering your question completely, but I think it's relevant here. My podcast is coming out tomorrow. I'm calling it Go Your Own Way. And I'm calling it that because it's about this realization that I have that actually nobody cares about me. And that's really oversimplifying it. Maybe you should listen to the podcast to see more about what I'm talking about. But what I mean by that is we are always going to have these external expectations placed upon us, whether or not they're by our parents, military, society, whatever it might be. There are these external expectations that could be put on us that can lead to some people feeling some internal guilt or shame about their choices and about their desires. If you remind yourself that really at the end of the day, nobody cares about you except for your very, very core people. You've got your core people. And really, from my perspective, that's only a couple of people on the planet that really, if my well-being and my best interests aren't served, that it impacts them, there's only a couple people. Beyond that, I mean, of course, I don't think anybody wants me to like get hit by a gamma ray or anything like that. You know, beyond that, the levels of people's concern about me get lesser and lesser and lesser the more you go out. And so I feel if there's a situation where, especially if there's a veteran or somebody in the military who is transitioning out and they are concerned or worried or don't feel like they can take the leap into something that's a bit more unconventional, drink beer professionally, because what will people say, or they've been socialized into a system, or they've been socialized into a society that tells them that work equals misery or work equals, gutting through it and you enjoy your weekends, but that doesn't feel quite right to them. From my perspective, I feel like the only thing you can do is just tell yourself, homie, you are roadkill to everybody else. They don't think about you after they drive by.
Homie, you are roadkill. That's the quote. Oh man. Well, it's so true though. If you really think about our lives, we have a very extended network of humans who know us, right? Like we'll go with thousands of people that actually physically know us and maybe have met us in person, to be generous. We have hundreds of people that might shed a tear if we died. And then we have about 5 people in our life whose daily life would be impacted if you were gone. And so when you really think of it in the most grim way of like, who cares if I die, right? Then your choices in life really don't matter much to anyone else. It's so true. It is. Oh gosh,
I mean, I know that that's a really kind of blunt, in your face kind of, kind of almost shocking kind of realization. But that realization to me, that nobody cares about me, is actually one of the most liberating, freeing things that concepts for me to know. And that is completely how I operate. I have, to my own credit, I have been doing that for a long time. It's been a slow burn to kind of get to where I want to go, because I've been kind of following some other anxieties and not knowing I had certain patterns and habits. But I did buck the system a long time ago. I got out of the Navy in 2007 and I went into drinking beer. I got a couple of degrees in the meantime there because, I need to go be a French teacher and I need to go do this, because I needed to have something that was, noble, stable, normal, whatever that means. So I did kind of go down this path after I got out of the Navy of like, what other system can I get into? But I did, at some point in time, I did, to my own credit, without therapy, make this discovery that I was kind of making choices for people or for myself based off of what I thought other people's expectations were. I still catch myself to this day. If I want to learn a new skill, or if I want to, like this podcasting thing or whatever it might be, I still Google degree programs. I still Google what kind of pieces of paper do I need? What letters do I have to have after my name in order for me to do anything? And I am coming to discover that unless you want to be, I don't know, a commercial jet pilot or a surgeon, or, these pieces of paper aren't always completely necessary. And so I've had to buck a system there to realize that sometimes your own experiences based off of your own choices, that's the best education in the school of life that anybody could ever get. So I'm trying to actually encourage people to kind of go, you don't need 3 degrees. I'm telling you what, I haven't even framed mine. They're still in the envelope that they sent them to me. I graduated 10 years ago.
Well, it's so funny. I was talking to my husband. I'm not showing anyone the floor of my office. I just moved internationally, and I was telling Maggie I've unboxed, but we haven't settled. And so the background looks okay, but the floor is a nightmare. I can barely walk in here. I have my 2 degrees sitting over there. They've never hung on the wall anywhere, and they're in these $100 plus frames that just look beautiful. I'm making it a goal to hang it up in this new office that I have because it's never been hung up. And I graduated in 2012 for one and 2015 for the other one, and it's 2020. And so I'm like, same thing. The paper, I went and I pursued it, and I don't regret having an education and being an educated woman. I'm very proud of that. But did I need that paper to fill my cup? No.
Exactly.
Did I need that paper for my current career? No.
Yeah.
It's just a really unusual dynamic that we have to indebt ourselves so much, hundreds of thousands of dollars to be successful. And it's funny, Maggie, because at the very beginning of our chat, I'm getting ready to start closing, so I'm going to talk about this. You said, I'm Maggie and I'm a nobody, pretty much. But yet on paper, you are a very high achieving woman, right? You have 3 degrees, you are a military veteran, you've had and owned 4 businesses, whether they failed or not. And you have done a lot of things in your career. Yet you are sitting here because your own cup hasn't been filled throughout your career. Exactly. And you're saying, look, I'm Maggie and I'm a nobody. I drink beer and I think it's fun. So come on this gravy train with me and let's do the fun things together, right? Yep. I think that you've probably, through your own chaotic story, you found your message, right? You found the thing that matters the most to you. And I think you're going to pull some folks along and help them avoid all of what you had to go through. So
that is my goal. Yeah.
with your kind of story in mind, with my audience of the military community being, the audience here that we're speaking to, do you have any final words of wisdom or events coming up that you want to talk about? Do you have anything in closing that you want to bring up and touch on that we didn't talk about today?
We talked about so much. I can't remember what we said in the pre-interview or during the interview, but one thing that I know works for me, and I mentioned it earlier that I need to go with the flow, but I'm still finding myself. So here's kind of a story real quick. About 2 weeks ago, I started a virtual assistant business under the Unfiltered Journeys name. And it felt right, it was very pragmatic. I have all the skills, I can do all the things. I was doing it for the beer industry, which I've been working in for 10 years. It was a no-brainer for me. But the one thing that I didn't ask myself is, do I even want to do it? And I don't. And so what that was an anxiety again of me chasing opportunity, me trying to find this transactional opportunity of me doing work in exchange for money. And that was because I was viewing my value really from the perspective of like, what kind of money can I bring in? Because there's still this kind of systemic guilt that's in me, or shame, that I need to be doing something to earn cash. However, that's completely against my nature and doesn't work for me. I have all the proof in the world that that doesn't work. Chasing opportunity doesn't work for me. That's why I have the Trail of Tears behind me. So what I need to do is just invite opportunity. Get out there, do what I know, and I know how to fail. And I know how I failed, and I know how I'm pulling myself through it. So get out there and do what I know and invite opportunity and be open to opportunity coming to me in whatever form it might be, and not chase it, because it's those chasings that have always ended up on dead ends for me. So if I could, one word of wisdom to anybody, invite opportunity. Now be pragmatic. I'm not just saying peace out of your job, especially you've got kids and all that kind of stuff, and go start drinking beer and just wait for the cash to roll in. It doesn't work that way. But if you have a calling, a desire, something that's burning within you, and you don't know how to make a go of it yet, keep your job, take some baby steps over here, and invite opportunity with no anxiety, no stress, no pressure. Go with the flow.
That's awesome. And I will just say the name of this company is Begin Within. And there's a reason for that. I know it seems like it has nothing to do with your career, but it's the logo of it is 3 rings that intertwine. And one side is career, one side is growth, and the middle is you. So in order to have that union and to be successful and thrive in your own way, it has to be a blend of all of those things, your career, your growth, and then yourself. And so, Maggie, you're preaching my own gospel, the namesake of my company. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And my business is called Unfiltered Journeys. And that's because I'm getting on a podcast and just telling you everything I'm screwing up, completely unfiltered.
Awesome.
And how I'm fixing it.
Well, Maggie, you're wonderful. I know that you had some hesitation about bringing this. This is a vulnerable conversation from you, and you just really opened up the floodgates and let us have it today. So I appreciate your vulnerability, your authenticity. And I just love you to pieces as a human being and as a friend. So thank you for being my guest today. And I know my audience loves you too. And so if you have any questions, audience, drop it in the chat. Everything will be below or in the post itself, the links to Maggie's podcast and where you can find her and contact her. So if you have questions, we're here for you.
Please.
And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.